Always waiting on Richard.
I heard there were cookies in here.
Going to go ahead and call this April 15th, 2019 meeting of the Whitefish City Council to order. Thanks very much for coming to participate in your government tonight. And our first order of business is always our Pledge of Allegiance. Ian, do you mind leading us tonight? Thanks very much, Ian. We'll move on to communications from the public, which is item 3 on our agenda. We do not have any public hearings advertised for this evening. If you have anything you would like to bring to the attention of the City Council, now would be your time. And just for the record, your name and address when you do approach the podium. Is there any public comment tonight? Sir? Oh, your mic's not on apparently. If there's a button just on the bottom of the microphone. Sorry about that, John. Switch.
All right. All right, I'll try this again.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, Council, for the time. My name is John Harvey. I live at 1550 West Lakeshore Drive here in Whitefish, and I represent Cub Scout Troop 4936. The highest rank in the Cub Scouts is Arrow of Light, and our Arrow of Lights have been studying citizenship. Their last requirement is to meet with an elected official. So my ask is very simple. Is there an elected official here that would be willing to meet with the Cub Scouts for 10 minutes? We meet tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. It's from 7 to 8:30, so any time between then would work. While you're checking your schedules, I can assure you that the questions will be very simple. It's just about being an elected official and what it means to serve the community. But our scouts need that in order to advance. Thank you.
I think we may have a volunteer at the end of the dais here.
I haven't a clue what my schedule is, but I'll clear it. I'll be there.
Great.
Just tell me where again, and
I have the address
awesome.
and everything
Thank
right
you.
here for you.
I'll consider it an honor.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks, John, for coming tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Further communications from the public. Paul.
Hello, City Council. My name is Paul Abu Talib. I live at 29 Somers in Whitefish and serve as the Director of Operations for Tupelo Restaurant Group. So I'm here representing Tupelo, Abruzzo, and Gunsight Saloon, which is not in Whitefish. Before I start, I'd just like to thank City Council for hearing us today, and particularly Public Works for all the hard work they've put into the proposed Depot Park project. I'd like to start by saying that I'm not here today to contest any of the agenda items that have been proposed regarding the Depot Park construction project other than its timing. I believe the city has done a remarkable job at curating, developing, and marketing a town vibrant with character and charm, and has done so with a long view in mind. In this, I'm confident that the proposed Depot Park project will be another tremendous success, that we will all gain from as businesses and as members of the community. That said, I do have serious concerns regarding the proposed timeline and the impact this project will have on locally owned and operated businesses in this community, and all those that depend upon them to support themselves and their families. There are three primary impacts this project will guarantee if done between July and mid-September. First, this will result in significant revenue losses for local businesses, particularly for those on Railway Street, the Sumtown Marketplace, and businesses on Central and Spokane between First and Railway, by deterring foot traffic and creating physical, visual, and mental blocks for visitors and locals alike. I think it is critical to think about this from the standpoint of visitors. While at face value it may seem embellished, construction, roadblocks, flaggers, chain-linked fence, and the rest are what most are escaping when they come to a place like Whitefish. Even for locals, this project will disincentivize customers from supporting our businesses. In my estimation, the project will produce a revenue loss between 15 and 25% during the primary period that businesses generate a profit in this market. That kind of loss is not simply a lighter year, but the difference for some businesses between making payroll and not, the difference between staying in business and not. I think it is important to note that this loss does not only apply to the businesses themselves, but also to the staff members that each business employs. Many of us in this room conduct over 50% of our entire year's sales between July and mid-September. That means that our staff, many of whom are tipped employees, also earn 50% of their living during this same period. At some point, the economic vitality of the people that comprise this community must supersede a construction project that, although benefits the community tremendously, does not pay its bills. Second, this project will pose substantial logistical problems, adding congestion to what is already the most congested time of the year. As an example, Tupelo alone receives 25 deliveries per week off of mid to full-size semis in summer months. Without access to the alley, which is part of the proposed process, this will make a stockyard out of First Avenue and potentially out of Central and Spokane, reducing parking even further in addition to the parking shortage the project itself will cause. This will also pose waste management challenges when dumpsters already overflow during the summer. Last, I do find it a bit ironic that a project that is largely an aesthetic improvement is proposed for the period of the year when we have most of our visitors coming through town. The eyesore this will create between taped off areas, flaggers, partially closed roads, bottleneck trucking, and the general construction zone appearance this project will produce is hard to overstate. Shouldn't we show off what we've got when we have company visiting and clean out the closet when they're gone? We all recognize that these will be challenges we deal with regardless of when the project happens. But again, to navigate these issues during the summer, when there's already a parking shortage, a huge influx of people and vehicles, double to triple the volume of deliveries, and most importantly, during the most pivotal time of our business calendar, simply does not make sense. It will result in substantial, potentially irreparable harm to businesses and those that rely upon them. It will disrupt the flow of traffic, reduce parking, and make downtown look like a stockyard. Most importantly, it can wait, and therefore it should. So with that said, I would like to leave you with a few questions to consider. First, what is the benefit of completing the project as scheduled in lieu of a fall and spring shoulder schedule? Second, are the construction challenges that come along with the spring and fall shoulder truly insurmountable, non-negotiable, and prohibitive? 3, who are the interested parties that benefit from this timeline? And finally, do the benefits of those in favor of this timeline exceed the costs paid by those that will be adversely affected by it? I'd like to thank the council for your time and truly thank you for your service. We all sincerely appreciate what you do for this community. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Further communications from the public tonight? Sir, your name and address for the record, please, when you approach the podium.
Yeah, my name is Les Russell, and I live at 400 East Texas Avenue. I operate, or own, I should say, L&S Snacks and Gifts, which is on Railway Street, almost at the corner of Spokane. I'm also launching a new locksmith business, which should be coming online here in the next week or so. So it's basically, I'm kind of filling two little shoes. I'm a recent import to this town. I chose it mainly because of its size, geographic location, and I grew up in a small town, and I was wanting to basically retire in a small town, but I figured it's going to be a working retirement. So this is kind of some of the goals I had in mind. The project on Railway, although the end result is probably going to be beneficial for me, but being this is going to be my first full summer here in town, I really don't have any way of judging. I just know that the business that I've established is almost totally dependent on foot traffic from the tourists. This little disruption, although it be small, it doesn't take much of anything to stop people from continuing on around the corner. I see it on a daily basis. It's real difficult to get people to make the flow. So any disruption during that peak season is going to cause them to just turn around and head back into town. And the only other thing I would like to mention, I know everybody's doing their due diligence here to try to bring this to our attention, but nobody that I've spoke to or any of the businesses along this line had any idea that this project was scheduled for this summer until a couple weeks ago. Now, I know it had to have been in the works and hearings have been established and the whole project was in general known, but the actual schedule, for some reason, nobody was notified of this. And in mentioning this, I also, couple months ago when we had the water main break, nobody from the city felt nobody from the city contacted any of the businesses and told them, oh, we had a water main break, it's on a Sunday, your business is flooded, could you come down and take a look at it? There was no contact from the city in any way, shape, or form. I found out about it the next morning by somebody who gave me a call, because that was a real bad day and I wasn't planning on coming in until real late. But somewhere in this mix, I feel that the city, in both instances, should have contacted the businesses on Railway to tell them what is going on. In the water situation, there was a couple businesses that had a lot of damage because of the water. I lucked out because I have a hard floor that it didn't damage in that much of a extent. But on this construction job, also, there was no information that I could find anywhere that was on the website with any of the other construction projects that this one was getting ready to start, let alone somebody had given us an advance notice of this project so we could plan ahead. Now, it may be an oversight, or maybe somebody in the city needs to make a better policy decision of contacting businesses with adequate amount of time so we can plan for these things. Now, I'm all in favor of this improvement to this park area. It's just that the dead of summer, when all the business is coming in, is really going to be a real detriment to the foot traffic on that street. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Les. Appreciate your comments. If we could hold the clapping to a minimum, please, out of due respect, I would appreciate it. Is there any further public comment tonight? Lauren.
My name is Lauren Osolowski. I live at 29 Summers Avenue, and I own Spotted Bear Spirits on 503 Railway Street. Mayor Melfeld, councilors, thank you so much for all the work you've done to date to move forward the master plan for the city. I think it's taken some big steps in helping us build the small pocket economies that are on the side streets to Central, and I think this Depot Park project is not going to be an exception. I think it's going to continue to help our North End economy grow. I'm in full support of the project, but again, my concern is with the timeline, the proposed schedule for the project. I also want to mention briefly, it feels like we're showing up in the 11th hour here, but for us, we've known about it for about 3 weeks. And we've felt really helpless and a little concerned that we didn't know about the public process. I was in a Sustainable Tourism Master Plan Committee meeting when it came to my attention 3 weeks ago. So I know that the events coordinators were contacted individually and asked to participate in public process. But again, as a business community, we kind of feel a little in the dark here. So I think you'll hear from a lot of us tonight, and that's why we're coming in right under the wire. There are a couple principal concerns I have with the project. The first is a loss of revenue. As Paul mentioned, I think we're looking at about 15, maybe 20% loss in revenue in our peak season. And Spotted Bear specifically, I was just looking at numbers. We do 50% of our annual revenue in June, July, August, and September. So a loss like that is how I make payroll in April and our shoulder season months. So that will definitely have a huge impact on us. I also hear a lot on the Sustainable Tourism Master Plan Committee about how no one can turn left in the summer as it is, and parking is already an issue. So to me, I was pretty surprised when I heard a project of this scale was going to happen in our peak season, when all of the other projects moving down Central have happened in shoulder season on 1st Street, 2nd Street, 3rd Street, and so forth. The exception, I believe, being City Hall, because that was a larger scale and scope of project. And so I think after speaking with Ryan and the engineer, it seems like it can shift to the shoulder season, and to me it seems like it needs to shift to the shoulder season. It's going to add to the congestion, the traffic congestion and the parking issues that we already have during July and August. I was speaking with some of our vendors. We are manufacturing, so we have freight that comes in and out in the summer. We do most of our business in July and August as well. So it's not hand trucks of food, it's actual pallets and forklifts, and we need freight access. So our freight suppliers are concerned. I also spoke with FSA, and they said they do 3 to 4 times as many deliveries. I also think first is, the alley behind us is one of the only alleys in the city that has food deliveries on both sides. You have the Northern, you have Tupelo, Mackenzie River, and us, and then on the other side of the alley you have Stumptown Marketplace. So they're accessing both sides there. There's a lot more deliveries and business that happens in that alleyway. So to conclude, my ask is that we shift the schedule, or that you all shift the schedule to the shoulder season, and that we don't have any construction happening in July, August, or early September this year. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lauren. Further public comment tonight? Sir.
Hello, my name is Jay Frizard. I work for Glacier Restaurant Group. I'm a regional manager, so in my role I oversee all of our operations here in Whitefish and in the Valley, specifically Mackenzie River Pizza, Latitude 48, Chow Mambo, and the Craigie Range, all part of my purview. I echo Lauren and Rob and Paul and Les, everyone's comments here about the project. I think we're all in favor of the project. Just the timing, of course, is poor for us. I can tell you GRG, I'll be brief, but GRG is vehemently opposed to this happening in July, August, and September. So anything we can do to push this and not impact not only revenue, which is a problem, but the delivery process and garbage disposal and all those things in the alley are really difficult in the summer. And I think this is just going to make this absolutely terrible situation. So thanks again.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate your comments. You can just approach the podium, ma'am. Chris.
Good evening, Councilor and Mayor. My name is Chris Schustrom. I live at 504 Spokane Avenue. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the Depot Park project construction schedule, item 7C on your agenda. I'm a board member of the Heart of Whitefish. The Heart of Whitefish sponsors and organizes the farmers market. Rhonda Fitzgerald, Heart of Whitefish Vice Chair, would normally speak for the farmers market, but she is out of town representing our area at the Governor's Conference on Tourism in beautiful Butte, Montana. Rhonda has asked me to speak on behalf of the Downtown Farmers Market this evening. The farmers market was created to help downtown become more economically vital. This includes the continuing goal of improving business for our downtown businesses by providing the opportunity for residents and visitors alike to come downtown to shop, dine, and enjoy the Whitefish nightlife before, during, and after the market each week. I understand that you have been provided with 3 different options for the scheduling for the Depot Park project that Craig will discuss with you later in the meeting. The farmers market supports option 3 with no construction during the months of July, August, and early September. Option 3 by far would have the least impact of the 3 options on the farmers market, just to make that very clear. In addition, option 3 is consistent with the scheduling of all other downtown city reconstruction projects. It would avoid impacts to downtown businesses, pedestrian traffic, parking, and traffic congestion during the months of July, August, and September. Thank you again for the opportunity to comment, and thanks for your service to Whitefish.
Thanks, Chris. Further comments tonight? Ma'am.
I'm Sandra Guzman at 115 Valley View Drive in Kalispell. I own Spanky's and Gus. It's a rock and roll shop. I'm in the middle of the alley between Spokane and Central. I'm sorry.
That's all right. You can just pull it down
I'm kind of
towards
short. So most of the 2 things I really wrote down was already repeated while I was sitting here, but I wanted you to know I just came back to town, reopened the business in January. It was a really tough haul. Just opening the shop in a really not visual part of the alley. Struggled through it, looking forward to this summer season, and to find out, I just got notice on Thursday that this was happening with the construction. I, from experience, know that if there is construction going on, adjacent properties need to be notified in writing. And I'm just surprised that a notice from the city wasn't kind of put around town or into the adjacent people, businesses, for this project. I think it's going to be a hard hit on a lot of people. Just to draw people down to Railway, when they come through town, they're not familiar with the town, so they come down Central and they do the loop as soon as you hit that corner of First and Central. They turn around and go back the other way. All right, we got that building that's abandoned, and we have that empty lot. So people aren't really fully aware there's other businesses around the corner. So it's tough enough as it is on Railway. I've had the business there for a year. My business has been bounced around this town. But right now I'm in the alley, and it's going to be tough. I mean, we had the Christmas stroll, and I didn't get anybody in my store that whole night. And I was lit up, and I had things outside, and it's just hard. So I think if you do this project in the time that you're asking or you're planning to do, I think it's going to be a huge impact. And when I think there's about 3 other businesses that are brand new, this is going to be a tough hit because you're investing everything you have to make a go of things, and then you're going to get slammed by this construction project. So I would hope you would reconsider, start in the fall, give us a chance to get some money underneath of us to make it through the next shoulder season, because it's going to be tough. And thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for your comments. Further public comment tonight?
How you doing? I'm Lindsay McDonald. I own Zuko Marketplace Bistro, 12 Spokane Avenue. Thank you for your time, your service, and adding the Depot Park construction into your agenda. Under phase one of the construction, Railway is slated to be closed for 2 weeks. and that's in the engineering specs. Phase 2, a little nervous. So construction during the peak summer visitation, it will have a devastating impact on foot traffic, parking, and vehicle movement. There are about approximately 25 businesses within this zone. These businesses employ approximately 200 people. The construction traffic management, the flagmen, the signage, that will begin at the corner of Spokane and First Street, and then on Baker and Railway. So signage, flagmen will start managing traffic flow at those points. This is the construction zone. So vendors will need to navigate and deliver around the construction zone. Waste removal. These trucks are required to enter the alley from the north and the south due to the position of the dumpsters and the overhead power lines. They got to approach, they got to back up, and then they have to lift. And they have to come in from the north, and they have to come in from the south. Summer accounts for 30 to 40% of business income. This will be a devastating loss for businesses if it happens. The park reconstruction. The park will be under construction from June to October. Phase 1 will close the eastern half of the park. Phase 2 will close the western half of the park. So my question is, how will the vendors navigate this? And how will the event customers navigate this as well? This is just not about, well, it is about the businesses that will be affected, but also how it affects the events. So no other downtown reconstruction has been done July and August. This project will have a substantial negative impact. So the 25 businesses, we were not made aware of the construction schedule. As I understand it, the Heart of Whitefish was not asked for input or guidance on this project. So I respectfully ask for option 3. And I think this would be a great project in the long term. Thank you.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Hi. My name is Becky Rigg. I live at 140 Vista Drive in Whitefish. I own Harlow at 505 Railway Street and Harlot at 100 Central. I'm also the president of the board at Whitefish Theater Company. Thank you for all your time and for being here and for hearing us. Thank you also for putting this on the agenda. We really appreciate it because, like Lauren said, we are sorry. You know, it's unfortunate we're here at the 11th hour. To us, it isn't the 11th hour. We just found out about it, and I know we all would have liked to have had more input and been there through this whole planning process. So it's hard to be here now and, you know, holding things up or feeling like that. But we are not trying to end the project. I'm totally for it. We would like to have input on the timing. I've been on Railway for about 7 years with Harlow. It's a really hard area of town. Sandra mentioned, you know, people don't know to go to the corner and turn. We've written sketches about it on stage about people don't know how to turn right and come down Railway Street. I think that the improvements to the park will obviously help that a lot. But doing the construction in the middle of the summer, I make 60% of my revenue from June 1st through September. I employ 8 to 12 employees. They will be affected because they have longer hours, they make bonuses. I have 6 of them here tonight. Whether they're speaking or not, you know, I'm speaking for them. It's a really devastating time when we know that all of our money is going to be made in the summer. I have 2 small children at home. This is my livelihood, and I truly believe that if this happens now, I might go under. I don't think that I could sustain losing, 20% of my profits during the summer. So we hope that this can be moved to the fall. I would love to see it done not in June, July, August, or September. Definitely July and August are the really, really big ones. But if it could be moved to fall and spring, we'd be so appreciative. So thank you very much for listening and being here tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Becky.
Hello, I'm Amber Roper. I live at 114 Winchester in Kalispell, and I am the owner of Nature Baby Outfitter. We just opened our doors at 505 Railway, and on the day our signage went up, we learned about this project. For us, coming back to Whitefish was very exciting. We used to be here, and 3 years ago we moved the business to Kalispell, and we're very excited to be back. Through doing that due diligence of coming back, we learned about the good, the bad, the ugly on being on Railway, and as everybody's talked about, nobody wants to turn right. But we budgeted for the summer months that everybody talked about. We looked through our past sales, we looked through what we do in Kalispell, and we talked to fellow businesses, and very similar to the Harlow situation, June, July, August actually are our best months. And for us to potentially lose the majority of that revenue, we will not make it back here, which would be sad to not have a fighting chance to come back to do business at Whitefish. So we ask as well that we look to find a solution for this that does not impact our business through June, July, August, and September. Thank you.
Thanks, Amber.
Hello, I am Mikey Wynn. I'm at 435 Park Avenue, and I work for Harlow and Harlette and for Spotted Bear Spirits, so my life is kind of on Railway Street, you might say. So we've heard from a lot of the business owners, which I'm very grateful to hear from them. I'm very grateful to be heard by you guys. I just kind of wanted to put a face to the workers in town. I think all of the workers here, we bank on summer. I work for tips, we work for some commission and bonuses, and with the rising cost of rent and living in this town already, having the most time where we get most of our tips and we save up for those, the time when the town hibernates a little bit, it's a little scary to look down that path. So I just wanted to ask humbly on behalf of people who work in downtown on Central Street and on Railway Street, for option 3 to push it back to when it won't be quite as effective on really everybody who works downtown, I think. Plus traffic just sucks in the summer anyways, so yeah. But yeah, so thank you for listening tonight, and yeah. God bless America.
Thanks, Mikey. Further comment tonight?
First of all, I'd like to thank you guys. Thanks for hearing all the public comment. I know it's kind of continuous, but we really do need help with this. And thank you. I'd like to address that the businesses on Railway are not against the project at all. None of us. We're all united. We need this project. It's going to beautify the park. It's going to make it gorgeous, but just not during the peak season. Some of the businesses make between 50 and 70% of their yearly income in these few months. And again, in the past, all TIF funds have been used in the off-season or shoulder seasons to beautify, to help. And this is really putting a hindrance on the businesses. I know there's been confusion, and we just all talked about that as well. We're not in the 11th hour. It's our first hour. We just found out. We've known this is on the master plan for the last 15 years. However, we were not notified as to when exactly this was going to take place. And June, July, and August are just completely unacceptable. So please take this into consideration, and I appreciate it again. Andrea Beatty, sorry.
Quite all right. I knew your name.
245 Diamond Court, but I own Kintla Copy and Creative. We've been there for 16 years, and I appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
My name is Eric Perlstein. I'm the office manager at Keller Williams at 525 Railway Street, Suite 102. I've been there for 6 years and have seen the progression of foot traffic. When I first got there, again, no one turning the corner, but it's businesses like these that have popped up and taken a chance on Railway. It's just great to see what's happened and what you guys did with the park and the expansion of farmers market. It's just been great, and for them to take a chance with even us too, for them to take a chance being on Railway and then to take this hit, I just don't think it's fair, and I'm here to show support for all them. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Eric.
I'm Crystal Donovan. I live at 520, that's my work address. I live at 623 3rd Street West. I own Woods and Water Consignment on the corner of Railway and Spokane, 525 Railway 104. I'm here to repeat pretty much what everybody else has said. I've been open going on year 3 this year as of last month, and I have already learned that in the last 2 years, June, July, August, and September are what carry me through the winter months. I solely work at the store by myself with a little help from a few friends here and there, but with the cost of rent and a majority of all of my inventory comes from consigners and foot traffic. So with you ripping up that main intersection in the summer months, my consigners are going to have, for one, not only them, but shoppers, a hard time getting in and out of my store, which could ultimately put me out of business if this happens in the summer months. So I'm here to ask you to please do this in the off seasons like you've done all of the other construction projects. I am totally for it, and I am super excited to see it happen. I loved when the gazebo went up, and I love all the activities that happen over there. I'm just asking that you please choose to do it at a different time. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Further comment tonight on this or other items?
Hi, I can't believe I'm up here, but here I am. I'm at 46 Hidden Cedar Loop in Columbia Falls, and thank you for your time. I just want to say that the farmers market is magic, and it's why people love this town in the summer, and I fell in love with it in 2017. And I think I speak for the tourists, that it'll be really damaging to them as well, because I'm actually emotional about it. So I guess that's all. Like, from a tourist point of view, and being able to see the magic of Whitefish and the community. I mean, my friends own shops. I'm building roots here. I love it. So the project is great. Put it off. I don't think you'll lose anything. So thank you.
Thanks very much. Kevin.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, staff, the public. Great to see you all here. Business members of Whitefish. I agree with what Eric said. Folks who set up business on Railway, they got some confidence, or they're delusionary. But they certainly have, I'm trying to come up with another word for it, and I can't, but they got it, okay? And they deserve to have an equal shot at making it here during the summertime. I'm going to start out. My name is Kevin Garland with Whitefish Chamber of Commerce, by the way, and I did come here to speak on another topic. I wanted to ask you about your State of the Union address, but I'm not going to do that right now. We support option 3. Option 3 will have the greatest impact on the Chamber of Commerce in that it will force us to find another location for Oktoberfest for this year. It'll probably cost us $5,000 to $8,000 in hard costs to do that. I don't know what it'll cost us in terms of folks who can't find the event or don't come because it's in a location they didn't expect to find it in and decide to find something else in that general vicinity that suits that need for them. But there's no doubt the summertime construction in the downtown area is going to have an effect on the businesses on Railway and in the close environs there. It also has effect on nonprofits. But that's not the most important thing. I mean, if there's somebody who's going to have to bite the bullet or, jump on the sword, it ought to be the chamber and not the individual businesses that are here. I would hope that the city could find a way to partner with the chamber and try to help us absorb some of those extra costs that will be required by moving elsewhere. And I look forward to hearing someone open that conversation. We talk about incentivizing the folks who are going to be building this to get it done by July the 1st. I think that's a great thing. We don't expect anything. We'll be talking to the CVB and we'll be applying for some grant funding to try and help us do this. This is the 10th anniversary of Oktoberfest. We were anticipating this to be the biggest that we've had, and we've certainly planned and promoted that way. And we've been doing that since January, when we were assured that construction would not interfere with our schedule for this year. So moving this event is not a small undertaking, but it's not impossible. It can happen. And I'd much rather go that route and not impact our downtown businesses than go the other way around. All right? Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Kevin.
Hello, Council. My name is May, and represent for Neotopia Whitefish, which is located on 525 Railway Street. And I just knew about this project around 2 weeks ago, the same time with other people, and it was so shocked because I just decided to take over the business not long ago, and then now all my hoping to make some money in the summertime to be able to paying for my debt right now, because I put all my money I have to this shop, and then 2/3 of our annual revenue from the summertime to within 3 months. And normally, wintertime slow season, we only have 2 or 3 employees, but summertime we make it 8 or 9 people. And besides effect on revenue, it also affects on our reputation of being able to take care of a big group coming to our business. So it's not just a moment, it's also in the future too. And I'm sorry, I'm just a bit confusing about it right now. So if this project happened during the peak time, it will have a big hit for me, which I cannot make money and paying for my mortgage every month. So I just hopefully city can reconsider about it, making it in the fall or slow season like spring. Thank you so much.
Thank you, May.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for your time tonight. My name's Sarah Seed. I live at 636 Denver here in Whitefish, and I represent Amazing Crepes. We're over at 123 Central Avenue. And I would certainly support and reiterate everything that everyone else said about the Depot Park project. From our perspective, I just wanted to make a couple quick points. Like all these other businesses, of course, our revenue profile is similar. Most of our revenue comes in the summer months. And we participate in the farmers market. It's an important part of that revenue and marketing opportunity. But also, we're all dependent on tourist revenue, and the success of my business is largely dependent on the success of the town, and that includes the businesses that would be more directly impacted by this project, those located on Railway and the surrounding areas. So I guess my point in that is that we're all kind of in that together, and we're all kind of selling this quality experience in Whitefish, and I think this project, as it is currently scheduled, would negatively impact that for the visitors that come to our town. So with that, I would support moving the construction project to the shoulder season if at all possible. Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. Further public comment tonight?
My name is Jade Carpenter, and I'm at 2381 Nordic Loop. I'm the previous owner of Nature Baby Outfitter. I've also owned Flying Fish Kids Gym in town, and My husband and I now own Mold Wranglers and Northern Home Solutions, which aren't location dependent, but I completely understand what the railway tenants and the rest of the downtown tenants are going through. The loss of that summer revenue, I don't think that can be adequately expressed. Like, that will shut down most of these businesses. And it breaks my heart, especially for Nature Baby, because like, not only is it the revenue loss, but for her and for the moms of the community, like, when you're expecting, you're not gonna go park 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks away and then walk through a construction mess to get what you need. And that's really frustrating because these moms need that resource. And yeah, it breaks my heart, especially for everyone to be in the position of finding out so late in the game, so late in your game, and having it be just this shock to them of they've already had events planned and things that probably are not even possible, like the alley events and stuff that you guys all do. I mean, it's not an easy location in town to be in, and the grit that they've had and the amount of money and time is huge. So option 3, I guess, or whatever else you guys can figure out. As a contractor, I also understand that timelines are tough, but they can be met. So yeah, thank you for your time.
Further comment tonight from the public? Further comment? We'll go ahead and we're going to actually ask for any volunteer board reports before we hear from Whitefish Legacy Partners. With any other volunteer board reports tonight from the audience? We'll start with Whitefish Legacy Partners, which is item 4A of our agenda. This is an update on the Whitefish Trail and a recent study that WLP conducted with Headwaters Economics, evaluating the economic impact the Whitefish Trail system has on our local economy. And with that said, I'd like to welcome Margosha and Mike Jopek, and you have their letter enclosed with the packet.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Mike Jopek. I'm a small farmer. I live in the Blanchard Lake area, just in the greater Whitefish part here. More than 15 years ago, you then, Mayor Andy, and I sat at Coffee Traders talking about a better way for our public lands. Dan Weinberg and I went off to Helena to help make some new laws to make that better. The community followed through. They did the hard work. They conserved thousands of acres of public land, built over 40 miles of world-class trails, a dozen trailheads. To the west, 15,000 acres of protected land at Lion Mountain, Skiles, Murray Lake, Woods Lake, Dollar Lake, Little Beaver, and Beaver Lake conserved, connected with a permanent trail corridor, held in trust for people to benefit schools. Next to it, 640 acres of working forest at Lupfer, conserved forever. To the east, over 10,000 acres of prime habitat. Haskell Basin and Trumbull Creek will remain unchanged for generations, thanks in much part to the work you guys have done. Connecting our local conservation lands with a front country trail system is smart and improves our quality of life. Our solid partnership with the City of Whitefish, our strong base of community support, combined with the Whitefish Trail Endowment held at the Whitefish Community Foundation, and over $1 million now and growing, help make it possible. Our work today is to connect the 800 public and private acres of legacy lands surrounding Smith Lake. The south-facing benches offer important wildlife habitat, a seasonal migration corridor between the high country on the Whitefish Range and the Swift Creek Lower Valley. Hiking, biking, fishing, and hunting has been enjoyed by this community for decades. The cold, clear waters of Smith Creek provide invaluable watershed protection for Whitefish Lake. Over the past decades, this community, our home, the Whitefish area, has leveraged over $20 million, placed our placement over 6,000 acres into permanent conservation. That's the portion we've been involved in. Mayor, you alluded to the 19,000 acres of conservation, the Greater Valley that we've kind of helped kick off. We've built the Whitefish Trail around Whitefish Lake. Legacy Partners offers free outdoor education and volunteer programs on the Whitefish Trail every year. Last year, Legacy Partners education program participation grew by over to 2,000 adults, youth connecting with nature on the Whitefish Trail. The Whitefish Trail brings immense value to our community through improved economic vitality, increased quality of life, working forests, clean water, protected lands, open to permanent public access. Last year, Legacy Partners and Headwaters Economics completed an economic impact study of our outdoor recreation and the Whitefish Trail. The Whitefish Trail contributes over $6 million in consumer spending in Whitefish every year and supports nearly 70 local jobs. The study also asked locals about their favorite aspects of the Whitefish Trail, trails close to town, public access to protected open lands, and a quality trail network with a high level of maintenance. Today, as we work to connect our legacy lands, Smith Lake is our conservation and recreation focus. Margosha, our program director, will briefly walk you through the Headwaters study. I look forward to our collective future together. The next 5 years I view as very key. We're happy to stand for questions. We're going to try to keep it short.
Thanks, Mike.
Hello, everyone. My name is Margosha. I'm the program director at Legacy Partners. So like Mike said, I'm going to take you through the Headwaters economic study briefly. Backing up a bit, really, the heart of our work is conservation and connecting people to those protected landscapes, both through recreation and education. And on the lands that we've impacted that are state trust lands, that also means generating millions of dollars for public school systems. And sorry for you all, council, there's a presentation behind you.
We have screens.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. That's spiffy. Okay. So it all began, back in 2004 with the Whitefish Area Neighborhood Plan, which was adopted by the city, the county, and the State Land Board, setting out the community's vision for these lands surrounding Whitefish. In 2006, the Whitefish Trail Master Plan outlined a vision for a 55-mile loop trail, recreation trail. And then in 2011, Whitefish Legacy Partners and the city won the largest RTP grant, the Recreational Trails Program grant, ever awarded by the state for $500,000 that really helped to jumpstart the program and start construction. So fast forwarding to today, we have 42 miles of natural surface trail accessed by 12 trailheads and over 6,000 acres protected forever. And our trails, primarily maintained by volunteers. And we love our volunteers and donors. Last year alone, volunteers put in over 1,800 hours of work, which had a value of over $37,000 contributed towards the trail. We have 17 adopted trail crews. Most of those are local businesses, a few are in the crowd. And we also have 53 corporate sponsors. Those are local businesses that are donating to support the trail every year. And in large part, the success of this project comes from that support from the community, from businesses and individuals. We have over 1,100 donors who have given with a median donation of $100, which I think really goes to show the impact that small individual donations can have. And like Mike mentioned, we have education programs that further connect the community to our protected landscapes. And those range from field trips with our public school districts to free kids programs, free guided learning hikes for families, and community hikes and bikes for the community. And we've seen a steady increase in those, which I think speaks to the need in our community for that kind of program, especially free and low-cost programming. So we've been hearing from the community, from businesses for years about the impact that our local trails have had, not only on our economy, but on our way of life. We had an opportunity starting in 2017 to partner with Headwaters Economics and the CVB to do a formal economic impact study to quantify what that is, which was a huge value and is something that not many communities have had the opportunity to do. So a bit about the methods. We used four methodologies. We installed infrared trail counters and cameras at trailheads throughout the year, so for over a full calendar year, to count the number of visitors to trails. We also got some great photos. It's not called Lion Mountain by mistake. So we installed those cameras so we could understand just how many people are visiting the trails every year. That's the first step. The second step is that we conducted intercept surveys, both at trailheads and in town, to ask questions of visitors and locals alike. We interviewed over 1,700 people. We also did manual verification, which basically means sitting next to the trail counter for an afternoon and counting hikers and bikers and dogs and toddlers and strollers and checking that against the trail counter data to make sure that everyone's being read, essentially. And then we also use Strava, which is a popular fitness tracking app. And so we were able to look at the data for a certain time period from the trail counters as well as from Strava. And we were able to extrapolate for recreation outside of the Whitefish Trail, including areas like Whitefish Mountain Resort as well, to get some ideas about further recreation in Whitefish. So what we found is that outdoor recreation, and this is no surprise, outdoor recreation is the #1 reason why locals stay and visitors choose Whitefish. When we asked locals why did they move to or stay in Whitefish, summer recreation, community, and winter recreation were the top 3 answers. Not so much friends and family. When we asked locals why they use the trail, health and wellness was the #1 response. And in fact, we found that 51% of locals say they exercise more since the Whitefish Trail has been built, which goes to show what a wonderful free resource it is to the whole community in Whitefish and the greater Flathead Valley for people, families, people kind of all abilities and accessibilities to be able to get out and be active. And when we asked what their favorite part of the Whitefish Trail was, they said proximity to town, the high level of maintenance, and access to open and protected lands. So we learned a lot from this study about how people are using the trail. We were able to look at, through the surveys, the percentage of trail users who are visitors versus locals across the year. And we found overall the average is that about 70% of trail users are locals and about 30% are visitors. We're also able to see how people are accessing the trail, so whether they're on foot, on bike, or on horseback. And about 69% of trail users are on foot, 1% are on horseback, and 30% are on bicycle. So when we questioned visitors, a big distinction that was made was whether outdoor recreation was the primary purpose of their visit or not. Not just are they going to get out while they're here, but is that why they chose here? And we found that for visitors, 65% of them said that outdoor recreation was that primary purpose. And looking across those two groups, visitors who come here for outdoor recreation spend more every day, and they stay for longer. And that compounds to, across the length of their trip, spending significantly more while they're here, over $600 more. We also, not surprisingly, found that trail users spend more on gear than folks who don't use the trail. And these figures you're seeing here are just for spending in Whitefish, not spending at stores in Kalispell, not spending online. So trail users are spending over $700 more per year in shops in Whitefish, both on purchasing and renting gear. So what that tells us overall, it paints a pretty powerful story. So we found that the total usage of the Whitefish Trail alone is over 72,000 users a year. And keep in mind, this was before the new Haskell Trail was opened. So we expect that that figure is actually higher. That's a conservative estimate. We think it's likely closer to 100,000. And with those spending figures, the estimated impact of that is $6.4 million in annual consumer spending attributed to the Whitefish Trail. $2.6 million of that is spending by locals, and $3.7 million of that is spending by visitors. And that combined, or I'm sorry, just the spending by visitors supports 68 local jobs. That doesn't include our staff or contractors who are hired to construct the trail. That's just from that visitor spending. So it really shows how the investment that our community has made in conservation and recreation is paying off. We found, with those figures that for every dollar that's been invested in the Whitefish Trail, it's yielded over $40 in economic benefit to the community. So we're finding that conservation and recreation really are powerful drivers for economic development. And that's all thanks to the public-private partnerships that make this project successful, and the city of Whitefish is the heart of that. And so thank you all and staff for your roles in that. Any questions?
Thanks very much, Margosha and Mike. Are there any questions for either Margosha or Mike?
And the full economic impact study is available on Headwaters Economics website as well as ours if anyone wants to see the details.
Great. Thanks very much.
Great.
We've long, I think, shared a very mutually beneficial relationship with Whitefish Legacy Partners. I only see that strengthening in the near future. I think our meeting a few weeks ago is very instrumental in identifying the priority being how we figure out how to fund the long-term operation and maintenance of the trail system. That's something we're going to be working with you on here in the short term. I've asked Katie, Andy, Maria, and Dana to join us in those discussions so we can help develop a long-term plan so that this project remains sustainable and affordable for our community. So thanks very much for that.
We look forward to those discussions.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Margosha.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks for coming tonight. Volunteer board reports from the council. Any reports tonight? Katie.
I actually have a report. All right, so the Whitefish Strategic Housing Committee met last Thursday, and part of our discussion was, okay, we've put a lot of wheels in motion. Now where do we go from here? What new subcommittees do we need to form? And so the next task at hand is the committee is going to look at our timeline and list of priorities and then revisit where we think we need to go and what we need to prioritize. And that meeting will be held Tuesday, May 7th at 6:30 here at City Hall. I do believe it's actually going to be in this room, Adam, over there, whichever, what is that one called?
Just the council conference.
The council conference room, yeah, sorry, that room. And so if any of you are interested in to see where affordable housing and strategic housing is going, I encourage you to come join us for a little bit of a discussion to see what we're going to work on next. So.
Thanks, Katie. Additional board reports from the council? Frank.
Just one, we had a park board meeting this year, one of the issues on our agenda. The other really important thing that better? The really important thing I think that came through is we had a presentation from the group that's managing and taking care of the ice den. I cannot tell you what a great report it was and how well it seems to be being managed, and the economics of that facility have continued to boil. They've done a great job with it. I think they've got good operating revenues. They've got very good what I'll call capital improvement budgets. I think they've done great work, and I think it's in good shape.
Great. Thanks, Frank. Further reports from the council? Not seeing any. We do have the consent agenda on the agenda. Any changes or additions to the April 1 meeting minutes, or can I have a motion for approval? Ryan,
I would move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
is there a second to the motion?
I will.
Seconded by Councillor Fury. Further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand, and those opposed, like sign, and that motion does carry unanimously, which brings us to item 6 of our agenda, which are our public hearings. We have no public hearings scheduled for tonight, so we'll move right on to item 7A, which is communications from our Public Works Director, Craig Workman, and it's consideration to authorize to bid the State Park Road reconstruction project, and this will be for Phase 1, and this is on page 32 of your council packet. Craig, good evening.
Good evening. Mr. Mayor, if you prefer to adjust the agenda items and take Depot Park first, I'm happy to do that as well.
You guys are prepared for that. I was going to make that suggestion.
Yeah. Why don't we do it that way?
Organize the agenda, and we'll move item 7C to the top of the list, which will be our discussion on Depot Park and the recent objections to the project schedule and possible special meeting to award the contract. Craig.
Okay. So Michelle is so quick on the fly there. She's already tuned into the one-page handout that staff has put together describing this project and looking at some solutions to recent comments that we've had on the project. The first page is a depiction of what's involved in Phase 2 of the Depot Park reconstruction project. As you all know, this is part of the Downtown Business District Master Plan, and this is the final phase of the Depot Park work. This phase, unlike the other phases, involves quite a bit of roadway reconstruction. And in an effort to kind of streamline the conversation, we've broken it into 4 individual tasks. Task 1, which is shown in red, are the improvements to Railway Street. They include not only improvements in the roadway, new curb and gutter, and some additional parking on the north side, but also the extension of the bike promenade, which is part of the Downtown Business District Master Plan, and that's on the north side of Railway. Task 2, which is in green, involves the reconstruction of the intersection of Railway and Spokane. This intersection will get the same treatments as the other shopping core downtown, with pedestrian improvements through the bulb outs, crosswalks, as well as new curb and gutter. The task 3, which is shown in, we'll call it purple, those are the improvements along Spokane Avenue north of the intersection, as well as improvements on the east side of the park. As you can see, there will be parking on the west side of Spokane. That parking currently exists, and it will be reconstructed to mimic what's out there today. There'll be improvements in the intersection of Depot and Spokane Avenue. At least on the south side, there'll be some pedestrian enhancements with the bulb outs, and then in the east side of the park, there's electrical irrigation and some considerable turf improvements. We'll be trying out some what we call turf reinforcement in this area to assist in all the activity that takes place in the park to try and make that soil and that turf a little more structurally sound for all that work. The final task is task number 4, shown in blue, and that involves the improvements along Central Avenue from Railway Street up to Depot. This section of Central will get the same treatment as the rest of Central Avenue down through the shopping loop with the valley gutters, the angled parking, and so it will all match. In addition, there's improvements on that northwest corner of the park as part of Task 4, and the extension of the bike promenade all the way to Baker Avenue. So that's just a quick rundown of what the project involves. We have 3 options that we want to discuss for how to build this job. The first option, which is the way that we currently have this project advertised, is the first one to discuss. We currently are scheduled to open bids next Tuesday and award the contract at the next regularly scheduled council meeting, which is May 6th. I've already talked about all of the work that takes place in this schedule, or in this option, but just to run through the actual schedule of this proposed option, tasks 1 through 3 will all begin June 10th, and the contractor will have until the 19th of August to complete those tasks. So that includes all of the work along Railway, the intersection of Railway and Spokane, and the improvements up Spokane and in the east side of the park. So June 10th through August 19th is the proposed schedule for that work. There will be no activity taking place in the park for the next 30 days. We do give in the contract a 30-day, what we call resting period for the sod, but that will give the Chamber the opportunity to use that east side of the park for Oktoberfest this year, and that's the intention of having the work completed on the 19th of August. We've determined that, well, let me just run through costs real quick. So on option one, the total anticipated project cost is $1,395,000. This does exceed the current TIF budget, which is $1,303,811. So there's a $91,000 overrun on the budget based on our estimated cost for this option. As we've gone through the project, we've continued to update the cost estimate, and right now the cost estimate does come in slightly over what we have budgeted. We have in place some options that we'll be bidding with the project that could potentially be delayed or postponed, and so we believe with option one we'll have an opportunity to come in at that $1.3 million budget. The largest option or the largest change to that would be just the removal of the bike promenade to the west of Task 4, so that long kind of bike path that extends off of Task 4, we believe can be eliminated and still come in under budget. Option number two, or of course council will have the opportunity when we come back to award the bid to award the entire project depending on what the cost is. So there still may be an opportunity that the bidders come in under budget with option one. Option two, we're calling this the expedited schedule option, and so what we'd like to do is ask council, if we go with this option, to have a special council meeting next week. We'd open bids on the 23rd of April, next Tuesday, and in order to get going as quickly as possible, we'd like to have a special council meeting to award the bid. This will allow the contractor to begin work early. If that were to happen and all of the insurance and the bonding and the contract signing takes place as expeditiously as possible, we believe we can begin construction of tasks 1 and 2 on the 13th of May, so middle of next month. Task 1 and 2 again would be the work in Railway as well as the intersection of Railway and Spokane. In order to do this, we would build some incentives into the project. We're asking for this option, we're asking the contractor to complete tasks 1 and 2 by June 30th. So we would not have any construction that takes place during July. So tasks 1 and 2 would be completed by July 1st. The contractor will continue working on task 3, pardon me, I misspoke. Task 3, which involves the work up Spokane Avenue, they would still be able to build in July, but under this expedited schedule, we believe they would complete that work by the 21st of July. So essentially, we're giving them the same work, but beginning roughly a month earlier. So we're finishing about a month earlier. So no work would take place under task or under option 2 from July 22nd until September 15th. We then come in and build task 4 this fall. Based on this expedited schedule, we anticipate about a 5% increase in the project cost from the contractor. We also want to build in some incentives on this project to ensure that the work is done by July 1st and then by July 22nd. And we're recommending a $40,000 incentive on each of those two incentives. So $40,000 that they'll get done tasks 1 and 2, Railway up to and including the intersection by July 1st, and then task 3, which is Spokane, by July 22nd. They get up to $40,000 for each of those. So we're adding $80,000 plus 5% to that cost, which brings it to $1.5 million, $1,510,750. This is about $115,000 more than option one. And so it brings the total TIF deficit to about $206,000, $207,000 over the TIF budget. It does still complete the project this year. We would complete tasks 1 through 3 a month early. We'd take the rest of July and all of August off, and then we'd build Central Avenue this fall as we currently propose under option one. The third option is one that we came up with as we've been working with the business groups downtown. We had a meeting last Tuesday, and it was pretty vehemently expressed that work during July, August, and early September should be avoided at all costs. So we've come up with a third option that we believe we can make work. This will postpone task 4 until next spring. So what we're looking at doing under this revised schedule or under option 3, again, we're going to ask for an early council meeting. We'll want a council meeting next week to award the project and begin the work as soon as possible. We believe this will give us the chance to complete task 1 by July 1st. We would then take all of July, all of August, and the first 2 weeks of September off, where then this fall we would build tasks 2 and 3. We can't begin work in the intersection. The issue here is we cannot begin work in the intersection of Railway and Spokane without continuing up Spokane. So what we're planning on with this option is building Railway just to the intersection. We wouldn't do any work in the intersection until this fall. So task 1 would be completed by July 1st. We would then begin tasks 2 and 3 on the 16th of September, and those would be done by the end of October. Of course, this would not allow Oktoberfest to take place in its typical location. The sod wouldn't go down until the end of October, unlike the previous options, which gets it down before the 19th of August. We would then build task 4, which is the work along Central Avenue next spring. We'd actually cancel that completely from the current bid, and then we'd rebid that work next spring. We're fearful if the contractors were to try and put together numbers to do work next spring right now, they'd take all the risk out of it, and we'd see numbers that are much higher than the work is really going to cost. So option 3 does include the cancellation of that work from the bid and then rebidding that this winter. So in terms of costs, we do anticipate a 5% increase just for that expedited schedule. However, there's only $40,000 in incentives that are possible for the project because we wouldn't build the same incentives into the fall work. So that would be the case. As for task 4, we do increase task 4 by postponing it. We're estimating about 10%, plus there'll be additional costs for rebidding that work. So our current estimated cost for building option 3 is $1,552,750. This is about $157,000 higher than option 1 and brings the total TIF deficit to just under $250,000. So I know that's a lot of information. That's just a quick rundown of what the 3 options are, how they affect schedule, kind of the pluses and minuses from staff's perspective, as well as the cost implications.
Thanks, Craig. Any questions for Craig on his report? Richard.
Craig, costs, or excuse me, risks associated with in option 3 with canceling task 4. What are, I mean, can we, you've tried to outline this, but it worries me that when you cut one piece of a contract out and then we're going to have to do it, and then a contractor says, I got you over a barrel here. Are we in trouble that way, do you think?
Well,
in your estimate?
Two things to that. One, I should have mentioned this earlier on. We've originally designed this project to kind of be built counterclockwise. So we need to build Railway first. All of the utilities come from Railway. We have that, we call it utility garden? The utility garden, which is in the south side of the park. That's where all the power comes in. That's where the water comes in. And in order to continue that around the park, we need to work in a counterclockwise fashion. So with that in mind, the schedule really has to go task 1, task 2, task 3, task 4. We simply don't have enough time to build task 4 this year if we were to not work during July and August. So the only reason it's done that way is to completely eliminate work during July, August, and the first 2 weeks of September. We don't want to bid that work now to build next spring. And so the only reason I'd say the contractor doesn't have us over a barrel is because we're eliminating that work from this contract, and we'll give everybody an opportunity to rebid that next winter. If it can't be built for one reason or another, we haven't left ourselves in a situation where the previously completed work is left hanging because we're building it in the proper order. It's just that portion of work wouldn't be done. But I think that rebidding the work this winter gives the marketplace an equal opportunity to look at it, look at their schedules, and we'll get a fair and competitive price.
Thanks.
Further questions for Craig or Maria for that matter? I had a question, maybe it's more directed to Dana. Our TIF pro forma, what's our unappropriated fund balance currently sit at?
So we've gone through and really identified everything through the end of the TIF, so July 15 of next year. And any remaining is being contributed to the wastewater treatment plant. That being said, by knowing that the cost estimate's already higher than what we had originally put in for this, up to the $1,395,000, with that taken into account, plus the additional funds, you are reallocating funds from potential redevelopment of blighted property within the TIF district. Items that haven't come forward to think about are Idaho Timber. I haven't heard the status on that, and if there would ever be a contribution. That's been a huge part of the TIF district. So if we were to take that money out, you would be sitting with about $200,000 that's not identified specifically for a project. So Idaho Timber or affordable housing outside of the snow lot. So we have identified some of those other projects. Riverbanks is already accounted for, but again, those are estimates. The property tax revenue is an estimate at 10%. If I'm off, that could be a good or a bad thing. So we're still kind of in a state of flux till August when we get those taxable value numbers. But you have the funds available to adjust this budget. You're just reallocating it from another project then.
Okay, thank you. And Craig, how confident are we in the cost increase estimates?
I think we're fairly confident in the percentage increases. It's the incentives that are an unknown. I've included the incentives in those cost increases because it is a worst case scenario. However, to get a $40,000 incentive on task 1, a contractor is going to have to be completed by July or June 2nd. That's a lot to ask. Start May 13th and finish a project by June 2nd. Given the scope, it's unlikely that it's going to happen. So I think those cost estimates are conservative because it does include $80,000 for option 2 and $40,000 for option 3.
If we expedite the schedule to accommodate a May start date, how likely is it that a contractor can bond, insure, and mobilize by that date, in your opinion?
Given the time of year and the workload that contractors have, I think that we could get contracts signed, insurance completed, give it an 80%.
Okay.
It would be sometime that week of May 13th.
Okay. So this evening we will need to provide Public Works and Parks direction on which option the council prefers. In addition, we need to set a date for a special meeting if you elect to go with options 2 or 3, which include the revised and expedited schedules. I'll just make a quick editorial. I appreciate the hard work staff has put into this project. It's been a long time coming. It's been years of planning. Things sometimes can slip through the cracks, and we sometimes do make mistakes, and perhaps we should have outreached more effectively to the local businesses. I appreciate the fact that you came this evening, and I know staff appreciates the fact that you came this evening, and I'm very sympathetic to several of the businesses along Railway, in particular because you're fledgling businesses, and you took substantial risk and trust that investing in Whitefish would be the right thing to do for your business and for the community. The downtown collects the lion's share of the city's resort tax in July and August, and the project's also being funded through the use of TIF, which is generated from the commercial district, the downtown district, the businesses out on 93, Wisconsin, 93 West. The way I see it, as this project's been bid, and I've thought a lot about this, I've talked to Craig, I've talked to Maria, the way this thing was advertised and bid, it basically shuts down the north side of town for months. And I think we need to heed the advice and the sentiment that we heard this evening from the business community, and I would hope motion to approve option 3 for the revised schedule. And I encourage council to consider that. Katie.
With that said, I would like to move to approve option 3 and then find a special council meeting next week to award the bid contract to change task 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then find money within the TIF to reallocate for the cost increase. And if I have a second, I can speak to that as well.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilor Hennon. Katie.
I echo the mayor's comments, and thank you everyone for coming down. I understand it's your bread and butter time, and it's scary. You guys work hard all summer, you work hard all winter, and you hunker down and eat bread and peanut butter in the slow season. I get it. And I think this is just an act of good faith. We need to be good partners with our community and our businesses, and if it's a little bit more expensive, that's okay, because in the long run, we're making sure that our businesses are here for the long run, and 2, even from an economic standpoint, A and B, there we go, and B, we're generating more tax revenue because we're allowing these businesses to stay open and to thrive and to actually have a fighting chance in our very, very busy season. And logistically, see the traffic that would be generated from the construction alone would be a nightmare. And from a tourism standpoint, it's the exact opposite of what we're trying to achieve in terms of sending messages to people to come back and return to Whitefish. So I hope that we can get this option 3 passed and hope that construction goes swiftly and without any problems.
Thanks, Katie. Additional comments on the motion? Andy.
Yeah, I live in a household, as many of you know, and wash dishes in a business that survives on summer revenues, so I totally get it. I do think that the city probably didn't reach out to businesses as we possibly should have. That being said, I would also encourage you as businesses to understand that both the chamber, Kevin, I think you knew many, many months ago, and I think Heart of Whitefish representatives also knew many months ago what these schedules were, so I would encourage you to talk to your organizations and say, hey, you guys need to make sure that we hear those things, because I think, Kevin, you said you knew like in January sort of what it was, and there was, because you were asking about how things worked, and I'm not taking any comment at this point, it's not my point. So I just would suggest that I think, what's that? Just what you said, Kevin. You said that you knew in January and had talked, and I'm not debating you, I have not recognized you. All I'm suggesting is that the city is not entirely at fault here. When we have representatives from the business community that represent organizations and they speak with us, some of them back in November, that wasn't you, Kevin, I will give you that. And then you guys only hear about it in the next couple of weeks. I think we all as groups and as a community need to work a little bit better together. I don't want staff to take this all as a beating that we didn't talk to anybody and nobody knew, and we were just going to go ahead and at the 11th hour go, hey guys, this is what's going to happen to you. So that said, because people did know. I mean, people were at our park board meetings, not Kevin. I'm not saying you, Kevin. You can shake your head all you want, but things were out there in the public. And so I think we, and I'm saying we collectively, all need to take some responsibility in being informed and understanding, because we are now in a position, and then not that it wouldn't have been that way anyway, but we're going to spend an additional $160,000 roughly of the taxpayers' money, which is well spent in my opinion, and it's obviously well spent in the maker of the motion and the seconder of the motion, and I suspect the rest of us sitting up here. So I just want to encourage us all to work a little bit better at making sure that our constituencies understand what's going on, and we as staff inform our community and everyone a little bit better. So,
Thanks, Andy. Further discussion on the motion? Richard.
As a former government teacher, I just want to appreciate the public's involvement here, because without public involvement, we don't all get involved as a community. I also want to thank the staff for working so hard and diligently to come up with alternatives. I think that this was a group effort. A group meaning council, a group meaning the community, and a group meaning the staff who worked so hard to come up with viable alternatives. And so I just want to say thanks for being here.
With that said, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. And those opposed, like sign, and the motion does carry unanimously. And we are going to break for about 7 minutes, and we'll reconvene at 8:50. We're going to go ahead and get restarted, and I think we left off with item 7C, so we'll move quickly to item 7A, which is consideration to authorize to bid the State Park Road Reconstruction Project, Phase 1. Craig.
Okay. Somebody mentioned Craig spends a lot of money earlier. We're taking these projects in increasing order of necessary cash. So this is the state park authorization to bid. We just talked about this project a couple of months ago when council approved the initial design of the project. So very little has changed since that presentation, so I'm going to run through this pretty quickly, but when I'm done, by all means, if there are questions or something I skipped that was in my staff report that you needed more information about, please let me know. So this project will reconstruct State Park Road from Lion Mountain Road to Haugen Heights Road. This is the first phase of the project. Phase 2 will be built next year, where we'll go from Haugen Heights to the railroad tracks. One of the highest priorities of this job is to enhance driver and pedestrian safety, and you'll see that in the plans. This is realized through intersection improvements, roadway alignment changes, and the addition of an off-street shared use path. Attached to the report are several figures that depict the final design of the first phase of this project. These designs, I believe, incorporate the recommendations of staff, our engineer, Robert Pesh and Associates, and were presented at the most recent public meeting that was held on March 7th, just last month. So just a couple quick highlights in terms of phasing. As I discussed, this is phase 1. Our intention is to bid the work in May, begin construction in July, and it'll run through the summer, ending in October. Gas main relocation needs to take place before we can start our work, and that's going to happen in May and June. Phase 2, again, will happen next year, and that'll go from Haugen Heights to the railroad tracks. The city's approved transportation plan calls for State Park Road to be what's called an urban collector. This is a 32-foot wide roadway. It does include curb and gutter, and that's what's shown on the plans. In addition, the Connect Whitefish path, or excuse me, the Connect Whitefish plan calls for a shared use path along State Park Road. And they mention that as what's called a Tier 1 connectivity project in the plan. That path is included in these plans as well. Stormwater is another one of the key priorities of the project. The project will include a new stormwater system, as well as treatment and a new outfall. A new detention pond is proposed as part of Phase 2, and we're working on the land acquisition necessary to build that pond. Lighting, this section's for you, Frank. As with past road reconstruction projects, we will be upgrading this corridor to include decorative lighting. Similar to the recently completed reconstruction of Summers Avenue, State Park will incorporate LED lighting. We're showing the lights on the west side of the road between the curb and the shared use path. This allows us to put what are called curbside shades on or house side shades on the lights, so that the light is directed onto the roadway, and some of it will shed obviously down onto the shared use path, but it doesn't direct into any of the homes. Of course, these will be our night sky compliant lights that we've installed on other projects. Traffic control and construction routes. We heard a lot of comment about the construction traffic that will be created from this project, and we are proposing a rather elaborate detour in order to build the project. However, based on the concerns that we've heard, we're also adding to the bid an alternate for the contractor to build this project under traffic. We anticipate this will be a fairly expensive additive alternate, and so when we look to award the bid, we'll discuss that. But the alternate will require 90 days of flagging along State Park Road, as well as additional construction efforts in order to build it under traffic. However, based on the concerns that we heard from the neighborhood, we thought we should at least look at that as an option and see what it'll cost to build this project under traffic. So we'll talk more about that after the project is bid and we know what the cost will be. It'll be an additive alternate, so it won't be mandatory that we award that alternate, but at least we'll know next time we talk how much it'll cost to avoid the detour. I think that's pretty much oh no, traffic calming. Let's talk about that for a second. It's our desire to reduce the speed limit of State Park Road to 25 miles per hour. It's currently a 35-mile-an-hour road. It's only one of 2 roads, I believe, in town that have a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, and we heard quite a bit of feedback from the public, not only during this public outreach process for the project, but previous to the design efforts, that there's issues with the speed on the road, and so we are recommending to reduce the speed to a 25-mile-an-hour limit. In the second phase of the project, we'll be looking to eliminate the double 90 that happens at Lake Park Lane, and we will be at a minimum designing that to a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. So we'll talk more about speed when we award the project, but that is my anticipation. That'll be coming with a formal request to reduce the speed limit. We're also planning, in terms of traffic calming, to add a southbound stop sign at the intersection of State Park Road and Lion Mountain Loop Road. This will make that a 3-way stop. We've discussed the option of making it a 4-way stop with the state, but they're concerned about traffic backing up into Highway 93, and so at this point, at least, they have denied us permission to put a northbound stop sign there, but I'll keep working on them. In terms of schedule, as I mentioned, we'll be bidding the project in May, assuming we're authorized tonight. We'll award the bid in June. The gas main relocation will take place in May and June. And then we will begin construction just after the 4th of July. Our thought is that we want to let the 4th of July traffic access Whitefish Lake State Park, and then we'll begin shortly after that. So it won't have any effect on the 4th of July holiday. In terms of budget, the overall project budget in the resort tax pro forma is $5.3 million. We estimate right now that we're going to come in at or under budget, with phase 1 being estimated at $1.8 to $2 million. Phase 2 estimated at $3.2 to $3.7 million. So based on all of that, the guidance and direction we've received to date from council, the Resort Tax Committee, and the public, I respectfully request authorization to bid this project.
Thanks,
bid
Craig.
Phase 1 of the State Park Road reconstruction project.
Thanks, Craig. Any questions for Craig on his staff report? Richard?
Yeah, I guess my only question is when I saw that 20-mile-an-hour section plus the rest of it at 25, and Bridger, if you could weigh in too, if maybe, I don't know. It just seems to me that a 20-mile-an-hour stretch that's pretty short, and then the rest of it at 25, maybe those curves are going to be self-limiting anyway to a lower speed, so that the public knows that it's 25, and because I would think enforcement might be an issue.
Yeah, it's not, we're not anticipating changing the speed limit through the curves. We'll just have advisory speed. Oftentimes, and I don't know exactly how it works with this type of signage, but as you're approaching a curve or some type of hazard in the road, there's a yellow sign with an advisory speed limit. That's what will be indicated through the curve.
Okay. The addition of the stop sign also is a great idea.
Katie?
Really quick question. In talking with the neighbors and emergency service personnel, are there any concerns about large boat traffic through the detour areas and any issues that may arise with some of the bigger boats? And could there or should there be any signage maybe that could indicate that there's a large detour and maybe go to City Beach to launch instead? Just food for thought.
Yeah. There's definitely concerns from the residents about detour traffic. I think the majority of the concern is the recreational traffic. You know, it's not the folks that live in the neighborhood that have to drive by their home to now get to their house. It's the, you know, the dually F-350 pulling a 40-foot
fifth wheel. I don't know that we can necessarily sign it to request or recommend people use City Beach, but we'll work with Fish, Wildlife, and Parks and the folks at Whitefish Lake State Park to see what type of signage works. There's definitely going to be a public outreach element of this ahead of time with FWP, knowing that for 2 seasons we're going to pretty dramatically affect traffic to get to the park. For Phase 2, we are planning to not do any work in July and August, so we're going to build Phase 2, or we're still working on the design for Phase 2, but our intention is to bid it in 2 phases. After tonight's comment, I think we'll work harder on that, but for this year, it's definitely going to take place in July and August.
Thank you.
Additional questions, or can I have a motion?
I would make a motion to authorize Public Works to begin the bid process for State Park Road Reconstruction Project Phase 1.
I will second.
There is a motion on the table to approve the bidding process for Phase 1. That was seconded by Councilor Williams. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hands. And that motion's unanimous. Michelle? Which moves us on to item 7B, which is consideration to approve the rating and selection panels for the water source and treatment capacity expansion project. And we'll stay with Craig, who's enjoying spending a lot of money this evening.
Yeah, we're not going to get off that topic with this one either. So this is well, let me just kind of run through the staff report, and it'll likely generate some conversation. The city does currently operate a water treatment plant up on Reservoir Road that's rated at 4 million gallons per day. That plant treats water from Haskell Creek as well as Whitefish Lake. We've been working for the last year or so, mostly at the direction of the Department of Environmental Quality on improving our storage capacity on the south end of town. We're working with AE2S through an RFP process that we did back in 2016, and through that project we've done some considerable modeling and taken a much broader look at the water, the city's water distribution system, not just the south end of town. You know, the questions really came up, even if we build a tower on the south end of town, will we be able to fill it, you know, with our existing capacity and our existing distribution network? The other thing that came to light during that process was that DEQ rates our water treatment facility at only 3 million gallons a day, because they take a look at what's called the firm capacity, where we have to take one of the filters offline. So as opposed to being 4 million gallons a day with all 4 filters, our firm capacity in the eyes of DEQ is really only 3 million gallons per day. While it's only really a concern for a couple days during the year that we go over that 3 million gallons, it has basically caused DEQ to take a harder look at our water system. And at this point, they have told the city that they're prohibiting any water main extensions, any subdivisions, or any municipal facility extensions, or MFEs, because of their concern with our source capacity. What they've told me is that until we can provide to them a capacity assessment and a deviation request, they will not be reviewing any of these documents. They won't be reviewing any subdivision requests, any water main extensions, or any MFEs. And an MFE is essentially needed for any subdivision. We've been working with AE2S really hard for the last, this came up, well, they told us in December about the water main extensions, and then just about 2 weeks ago, they denied an MFE, and so I had some clarifying conversations with DEQ, and they let me know that that's their intention, was anything that anyway allocates additional water capacity in our distribution system will be denied. So we've been working really hard with AE2S on getting the source water capacity assessment done and the deviation request, and you're going to have agenda items in the near future to look at some of those items, the most important of which is likely going to be a water conservation ordinance that we'll want to put into place this summer, trying to control how and when water is used during our peak demand period. So anyway, long story short, in order to fully comply with what DEQ is telling us, we are going to have to make an expansion to our water treatment plant. And so with that in mind, we're going to need to hire a consultant to help us along with that. The scope of services that we have AE2S under contract for right now doesn't cover this breadth of work, and so we're going to need to do a new RFP to look at plant expansion. When Dana and I updated the CIP last fall and presented some options for the south end of town and potential groundwater, we did add $10 million, or excuse me, we upped the plant expansion to a $10 million number, and I anticipate it's going to cost all of that. 10 to 12 million dollars is what we currently anticipate the cost to be. It's expected engineering fees for the project to be in the 10% range. That's included in the 10 to 12 million, but assume all in all we're going to look at about $1 million contract for this engineering service. So the purpose of this staff report and this agenda item tonight is, one, I think to bring council up to speed on conversations I've had with DEQ and let you know that the situation really is pretty dire. And two, get going as quickly as possible on an RFP, which requires that council do two things based on the cost. One, we need to create a selection committee, and we also need to create, sorry, now I'm looking for my exact terms that is in the policy, a rating panel and a selection committee. So it's my recommendation that council appoint myself, Neil Desort, and Karin Hilding to serve as the rating panel. We would essentially go through the proposals that are received and select ones that we recommend interviewing. And then I also recommend that council appoint myself, Neil Desort, and one council member to serve as the selection panel. So that's the panel that would actually conduct the interviews and formulate the recommendation to council.
Thanks, Craig. Any questions for Craig on his staff report? Andy.
So essentially then, we couldn't have any more subdivisions or extend any water mains until we satisfy the DEQ. Is that what I'm hearing? Did I read that correctly today? I highlighted, I'm like going, what?
Yeah, and I tried to spell that out. What they need is a capacity assessment and a deviation request. Essentially, we're asking the Department of Environmental Equality to live beyond our means until we get the plant expanded. So we need permission to approve additions to the system above our firm capacity. And there's a couple of things that we can do to justify that. One, probably first and foremost, is adopt a conservation ordinance. That's something we can do relatively quickly and get on the books for this summer. Two, we can also talk to DEQ about the things that we've done recently to improve our capacity. We've dropped our water loss down to about 20%. That's a significant figure. And so I don't know that we're necessarily even going to hit our firm capacity this summer with the ordinance in place and with our improvements in water loss. But we need to tell DEQ all those things. We need to formulate it into a pretty comprehensive submittal, and we're pretty close to having that ready to go to them. But yes, long story short, we're on hold.
All right, I'll quit watering my lawn. How's that?
You don't have a lawn.
I have a little bit. It's not bad.
We will need a motion to appoint Craig's recommendations to the rating panel as well as the selection panel. If no one else is interested, I would volunteer to be on the selection panel, unless someone else is absolutely dying to participate. So we'll need two separate motions. Katie.
All right, I would move to approve the rating and selection panels for the water source and treatment capacity expansion project.
And that would be Craig Workman, Neil
With,
Dessert, and
Craig.
Karen.
Karen and Mr. Mayor
That would be for the selection panel.
to serve on the selection panel, correct.
Okay, so we'll take the first motion, which, well, we'll take this in one motion. Katie motion to approve Craig's recommendations for the rating panel as well as the selection panel, and has told me I'm going to participate in that.
Yeah, unless anyone else really wants to, but I didn't see anyone jumping the gun.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilor Hartman. Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Those opposed, like sign, and that carries unanimously. Thanks, Craig. You have Adam's report enclosed with the packet. Any questions for Adam on his manager's report tonight? Adam, anything else to report on?
No, I think the only thing I wanted to add is thank you very much for coming tonight. I thought the open house and the state of the city went really well. I was pleased with the turnout for our first time out, and hopefully we'll just continue to increase numbers in years to come, but I thought it went really well. I was pleased.
Agreed. Thanks, Adam. Thanks for your help pulling that together. And finally, item 9A, Resolution 19-5, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Whitefish establishing our annual goals for the city. And we'll need to make sure we're all comfortable with the goals that are identified on the draft goals list. I think we've thoroughly vetted these between our retreat and our work session, so we will need a motion adopting those goals, and if there's any amendments, maybe we could take those individually after the original motion. Richard.
I'll move to approve Resolution 19-05, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Whitefish, Montana, establishing annual goals for the city.
I'll second.
Motion has been made to approve the draft goals, make those final goals for FY20. That was seconded by Councilor Williams. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Those opposed, like sign, and that carries unanimously. Michelle? And we'll start with Richard tonight. Comments?
Only that if we have a special city council meeting, I will be unable to attend anything after the 25th of this month.
Okay. So we do need to make that date firm this evening. That wasn't articulated in the motion. And we need to probably do that next week, correct, Craig?
We opened bids at 11:30 on Tuesday. We'll want, I would say the 25th or the 26th. Oh, shoot. The 26th, the holiday? No, that's this Friday. Next Thursday or Friday would be best. It'd be good for us to have a day just to process the bid tab and make sure there's no errors or irregularities. So if we could have the 24th to do that, that'd be helpful. So if there's a time Thursday or Friday, the 25th or 26th, that would be the best.
How does that look for everyone's schedule?
Thursday, the 25th?
Okay.
I'll
Rich,
be in the air.
You're gone, Ryan? 25th or 6th? Andy's tentative. I'm actually tentative as well. Katie?
I'm good.
Frank?
I'm good.
Melissa?
So, say again what time it would be at?
It could be any time. We just need,
Okay.
what, 24 hours to advertise it? 48 hours, so.
Okay. I'm available at 6:30 on the Thursday, the 25th, but not on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a half hour during the day that 4 of you can get together, we'll do it.
I could do that as well. I could do.
Maria?
Sorry, I just need to clarify that I am in Butte on the 25th. It is a Depot Park bid award. I would be glad to be there, but if I cannot and it doesn't work with yours, Craig and I have already talked about it, he would be willing to be there for that, but I'm not available on the 25th.
Okay. You want to proceed with the 25th or move it to the 26th? So Maria can attend. You're still gone, you're still gone, I'm still tentative. Does- Okay.
Get it done and.
Yep, 26th works for,
I can do it.
I can't do the 26th, just the 25th.
okay, then we'll have to stick with the 25th for quorum reasons. What time would you like to meet? 11 o'clock a.m.? Does that work for everyone?
Yeah, noon time.
Yeah, I
anytime.
can do that.
Around
Mhm.
Yeah.
11?
Yep.
Okay, does that work for you, Craig?
Yeah.
Okay, Ryan?
Yep.
Okay. And I think it is something, if, for example, you're in Kalispell, you can always just call in and mean to make a special trip all the way up there. With that said, let's get a motion out on the table to that effect.
I would move to host a special council session on Thursday, April 25th at 11 a.m. to discuss and award the Depot Park construction bid.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilor Hennon. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Those opposed, like sign, and that motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Richard. Andy, anything tonight? Ryan?
Nothing.
Thank you. Katie?
Just real quickly, I just wanted to say, again, city staff, you guys are great. Tonight was a really good example of everyone coming together and being professional and wonderful, and the public had a good time from what I could see. And then also thank you for taking the time to meet with the concerned business members and come up with options and not just tell them no, but actually come up with a solution and think outside the box. And I think that's amazing, so thank you very much.
Thanks, Katie. Frank?
Nothing further this evening. Glad to
Thanks,
be home.
Frank. Thanks, Frank. Melissa?
Nothing to add.
Thanks, Melissa. I did receive, Maria, I haven't shared this with you yet because I just checked my box yesterday, but we did receive a letter back from DOT regarding our concerns over the Highway 40 river access point and shared use path along Highway 40. I'll provide this to you. Maybe we can send it out to the entire council, but basically in a nutshell, the Highway 40 improvements are going to consist of 2 phases, and they have every intent with Phase 1 to not only honor the existing access point, but actually expand it to provide for additional overflow parking, and part will be paved and also gravelled just so they get cars off the shoulder. I think it's become a safety concern. Related to the shared use path, that project sounds like it's years out because it'll go all the way to Highway 2. The first phase, I think, ending at Con Road. So nothing was really committed to on that, but they did include their new requirements for shared use paths and MDT right-of-ways, their new policy, which probably isn't going to be too promising to get a shared use path, but who knows, let's see. I will provide you this letter, but the good news is they will honor the river access point and include some improvements with that project. So we'll get this emailed out to the council. And finally, I wanted to thank Michelle for your efforts tonight to pull our State of the City address off. I know you worked tirelessly behind the scenes to get that pulled together, and we very much appreciate it, as well as all of staff's efforts tonight and Adams. With that said, we are adjourned. Thanks.